use the JSON Toolkit, which is provided by Tridium Niagara tooling, and from that we use the OIDs of the points to map them into a previously configured JSON envelope. So what we do is that, so this is the overview of the JSON. I'll just go through it. So we have a point set envelope. Within that we have the timestamp. We have the UDMI version that it was created against, because the version of the UDMI is always developing and going forward. So we need to be cautious that we put in the version of the UDMI that we delivered the project to at that time. We then use the points that are from the digital buildings ontology to name specific points, and then we add in the envelope data, which allows the cloud processing to send it to the correct project and the correct building registry. So within the UDMI GitHub, it actually has a schema, and within that you need to use the envelope.json. And what this JSON is, it's a descriptor around the patterns that are valid to populate that field of data. So for instance, if we look at the project ID, it's asking for a pattern of data that would match this. Now fortunately these days we have the powerful tool of ChatGPT, so if we don't understand patterns we can actually ask it what pattern, and then we can ask it to tell us the breakdown of the pattern, and that way that it can be explained so that we can all understand it without having a computer science degree. So once we've built the envelope, which is really easy, really, it doesn't have to be quite as complex as that, apart from getting your patterns correctly. You need a project ID in there, you need a device registry, you need a subtype of the event, you need a device ID, and I think that's it for the outside envelope. That's correct. And then within the inside envelope we have the point set, which is the bit we're interested in. So we have to generate a timestamp value. So in goes the timestamp value. We have a version value for the UDMI, and then we have each of the points. So the points, you put the name in, and then within that you can map the binding to where it is inside the BACnet network. Set temperature out value, and what that will do will then map the value of that current point inside the JSON envelope. And when you click generate, it'll get the current values if this was corrected. And then equally to that, you need to create a state JSON payload, which is a descriptor around what the make and model is. And you need to get the serial number of the unit installed and populate these fields. Sorry, these fields down here with that data. And then additionally to that, you create the envelope again that tells the cloud system about what device it is, what registries it's going to, and what the project is. Then you need to create the metadata file so that we can contextualize and understand the points. So within that we contain information around the units that are associated with the numeric points, and Boolean points are typically no units, so we put in no units. Within the metadata we also put in information around the location of the device. So for instance, this is at the site wedding. This is in the section of the ground floor. Now in later versions of the UDMI they've reduced level and room, I believe. So now section could be reused for something like quadrant or something else that is a identifier, an additional identifier. Inside the physical tag, the asset tag, you've got the GUID, and the GUID connects to the ID inside the building information model from Revit. So you would connect those together to twin the 3D model to the telemetry data. And then you have the site, the asset tag, the asset type, and then the long name. There's also a type name set. And like I said before, if you're ever unsure, always come back to the UDMI schema JSON validation. So you've got the envelope, which always goes around each of the packets, which allows the cloud engine to route the packets to the correct project and client and building. And then within that, what we've just touched on, we've got the metadata, and that allows us to build the metadata payloads as we've seen before, and also the state data that we've just briefly touched on, and also the point set data. Where is it? Might be under something called events. Where is it? Is it state point set? Not sure. This is slightly embarrassing. Event set points. There we are. Point set. Events point set. And we've got events point set point, which allows us to describe everything. You need to look out for these JSON that says required, so that it tells you exactly what is required as the bare minimum. And we will go over this in more detail in further videos.